In this video, I'm going to be walking you through the exact step-by-step process for setting up Facebook ads. Everything from campaign setup, the exact settings that you need, ad set setup, and even all the way down to the ad setup. I'm going to walk through every single setting so that when you look in your account, you know that you're set up 100% up to best practice. And just a heads up, the best practice that I deploy is very different than what most people tell you to do because my setup is fully for e-commerce. This is literally the exact process I'm using for over 100 e-commerce brands across every single niche, from spends as low as a couple $100s a day to spending hundreds of thousands of dollars per month. So whether you are just starting Facebook ads today or you are already an advanced operator, this is the exact video you need to make sure you're doing everything right. So the first thing we're going to do that we absolutely need to set up properly is going to be our ad account structure. For this structure, we're going to create 4 primary campaigns. The first campaign that we're going to create is our prospecting CBO campaign. The purpose of this campaign is it's going to drive net new customers. Now, a few settings have changed very recently to this campaign, so heads up. First things first, we're going to click the create button. We're going to choose a sales-based campaign and click continue. I like to name my campaign straight away so everything's nice and organized. We're going to call this prospecting_CBO. Our buying type is auction. Our campaign objective is sales. And going down here, there is no campaign spending limit. In our budget section, we are setting this up as a campaign budget, meaning Advantage Plus should be on at the moment. Next thing we're doing is our budget. This campaign is going to represent, to start, around 80% of our total budget. So let's just pretend we have a $1,000 budget. I'm going to set this to $800. Do what you please. The next piece here is our campaign bid strategy. This right now, we are setting to highest volume or value. This basically means we're going to get the most of our purchase value out of our budget. Really simple, the most default strategy that we could deploy. Into our additional settings here, we are not setting anything at the moment. Budget scheduling and ad scheduling are staying exactly untouched. And then the next section here is our audience segment reporting. This is very important. We're going to take a quick detour because this is so critical. To set audience segment reporting up properly, what you need to do is go to the left-hand side and click advertiser settings. And once you're in these advertiser settings, click on audience segments and make sure you implement your engaged and existing customers. For your engaged audiences, what you want to set up is anyone who's been to your site or added to cart in the last 30 days minimum. If you're just starting out, push this to 90 days if you have smaller engaged groups. For existing customers, we want this to be anyone who's ever purchased from you over all time. So upload your pixel and upload your customer list from Klaviyo or whatever CRM you're using. And heading back into our ad account here, going back to the settings of the campaign, we're going to then see engage and existing customers populate here once you set it up at the advertiser level. So our campaign settings are 100% set. We're going to move down to the ad set. Now, the ad set, as everyone knows, is where we're actually targeting. It's who we're deciding to actually put our budget against. For our ad set name, we're just calling this pack number 1. Conversion location in most cases is going to be website and shop. Sometimes you could just choose website only here if you don't have a good Instagram shop, but 9 out of 10 times for e-commerce, I want website and shop here. Our performance goal, we're choosing maximize number of conversions. This is the easiest way for Facebook to understand that all it needs to do is get a purchase. In few and rare cases, you could choose maximize value of conversions, but based on my experience, I've always seen better results from maximize number of conversions. For your data set, make sure you're choosing your active data set, and this little ticker here, Conversions API, is set up properly. If it's not, then make sure you're integrating your Conversions API because that's the only way you're going to have the best possible tracking in Facebook. Your conversion event is always purchase. No ifs, ands, or buts. If you are thinking you should use initiate checkout or add to cart, do not. You always want to tell Facebook the exact conversion event that's most important to your business. And what we have here are called standard events. This means that Facebook tracks the purchase event across every single account that's ever run on Facebook and has driven to a purchase. Facebook knows the buyer behavior for the purchase event. That's why you get worse results when you drill down to initiate checkout or add to cart. We always want to run to the purchase event. We're going to skip cost per result goal for now. There's going to be something at the end that I'll talk about. And then we're going to use our standard attribution setting, and we're going to use 7-day click, 1-day view. You could also use 7-day click, 1-day view, 1-day engaged here. I have to actually set up video campaigns to do this, but 7-day, 1-day view is all we really care about. Next piece here for our budget and schedule, we're keeping this 100% blank. There's no change that we're going to be making here. The next thing is our audience setup. Our audience setup is so important. For your broad packs, right now we are seeing better performing broad packs when we use further limit the reach of your ads. So you're going to click further limit the reach of your ads. You're going to click switch setup. And then this is all that changes here. It's literally a 100% broad audience. The only weird difference is when we change from recommended setup to use your own setup is we're actually able to include a negative exclusion in this campaign, which is going to be critical. In this audience, we're going to our custom audiences here. We are clicking add exclusions. And right here, we want to enter our retargeting and our existing customer audiences that we're going to create in a few minutes. The purpose of this is that we are establishing swim lanes in our ad account. The purpose of swim lanes is critical. If you don't have swim lanes, you don't know if you're actually prospecting, if you're actually retargeting, or if you're actually hitting your existing customers. We want to make sure that when we increase budget in any place, we know exactly to what cohort it's going to. So in this section right here, I want to exclude anyone that's going to be in my retargeting and my existing customer audiences. Now for me, what that means is I'm going to exclude anyone who's purchased over the last 180 days and any site visitors over the last 90 days, because that's who we're actually going to target. A little preview of what's to come. So you can see here, I've excluded purchase 180 and website visitors 90. I'm not too concerned with perfect exclusions. The idea of a swim lane is that water can flow into each swim lane, but they should generally keep things in a good order. We're just excluding purchase 180 and website 90. The reason we're not too rigid here is because if we get too rigid, we actually might miss people. We don't want to ever miss someone who's high value and high likelihood to purchase. We just want to make sure we're covering all our bases and we're putting people in their own respective lanes. So that's it for custom audiences. We can see our exclusions are set up here. And then we're going to scroll down to our placements where we're keeping everything as is. We're not going to be adjusting our placements. There's very little room to do this these days. Although if you were a brand that doesn't have a specific kind of creative, for example, if you don't have video creative or if you don't have image for some reason, then you can in fact cut certain creative placements out of here. I would just be really, really careful with that. 99% of brands that we run with, literally of the 100 plus brands we run with, I think there's like 3 or 4 that actually run proper placement exclusions. That is it for our ad set settings for our prospecting CBO. And then we're going to move down to the ad itself. Now, everything I show you for the ad setup is going to apply to all of the other ad sets. So we're not going to repeat this over and over again, but I just want to show you the core fundamentals, the most important things that I'm doing right now in 2025 and probably in 2026 that represent the best setups for ads. So at the top, I always like to have my naming conventions clean. I always like to include either image or video with an underscore and then a description of that creative. So in this case, I'm just going to say image underscore number 123. Let's just pretend that was the name of the ad. Make sure our Facebook pages are properly set up. And then for our ad setup, we're going to use the create ad function. We're going to manually upload these ads. Our format is going to be single image or video. If you're using a carousel, that's fine. Just click on the carousel. We're going to unselect multi-advertiser ads. We're going to show more settings and we should not be running on any sort of schedule. The next piece here, of course, is actually uploading a piece of creative. So once we click set up a creative, we're going to upload an image ad here. And you can see at the top, your source URL is going to show up. This is going to be your website. Make sure your website actually shows up here. Everything in the creative setup has changed drastically. There's been a tremendous amount of change in really just the last year. So all of these settings are on the fly. They're probably going to be different even 6 months from now. So first off, in the extensions part here, if your promotions say off and you have a promotion, make sure you enter the code here. For example, if 12345 was my discount code, I could enter it here and then promotions automatically gets flagged on. It's going to actually look for that code because you could see in this case, it cannot find the code because I just made that up on the fly. Next thing is site links. You almost always want site links on these days. Site links are fantastic. So we're going to choose apply site link here and we're just going to choose the different pages that we would want to send people to. My recommended pages are your home page, your best sellers page, and your sales page. Those are the 3 most important ones. And then every brand has a little bit something different, maybe a top collection, or in most cases, whatever ad you're actually setting up here, make sure that has a site link here. So I'll give you an example. This would be our home page here. We can then display with a label called home page, and we can just continue to add here. Now, these are very small site links that will show up, but they're going to help your performance overall, and you need to have at least 4 of them for them to display on your ad. The next piece that we're going to set up here is our actual ad creative. So there's a very important part that needs to be done here properly because of the different placements that are set up in Facebook. Whatever ad creative you have, you need to make sure it's set in 3 different visual formats. So you don't need to necessarily recreate the image. You just need to make sure it's cropped into 3 main formats, and I'll show you that in a second here. So we're going to take one ad here. We're going to click next, And you can see here it has square, vertical, and horizontal. It has never been more important to actually have custom creative for each individual placement. First thing we'll do here is we're going to turn off flexible media. We do not want flexible media on. So that means it could take this creative right here and it could actually crop it based on whatever it thinks is going to improve performance. But in reality, that's often not good because it can crop out things like text or important parts of the image. What you want to do is off Facebook, you want to make sure you crop your images properly. A great example here, and I know you guys can't see the entire image because I have to blur it out for confidentiality, but you could probably see that there's stuff here that's actually cut off. That would be really, really bad. So what we want to do instead is every time we want to click the replace button down here and we want to insert the proper 1080 by 1920 for vertical, and we can see it loads in the perfect sized image because we pre-sized that for Facebook. Now, on the horizontal end, in most cases, you do want to replace this with an image that actually fits, but I'll be honest with you guys, if you can't get the perfect image horizontal, don't worry about it. Just keep the original square in the horizontal placement. This shows up about 2 to 3% of the time. I'm not too concerned with it. Once you're done here, and again, make sure flexible media is turned off, click on the next button, and this is where we're going to add so much value. This is one of the most important things that we do every single time. Now, a few years ago, Facebook enabled the ability to have multiple primary text and multiple headlines. For many, many, many months and even years, most people were skeptical and only chose one single primary text because they weren't sure how this was going to be tested. I could tell you with absolute certainty that you should max out everything here. Facebook is incredible at finding the best text that will actually perform against your image. So what we want to make sure we're doing is including 5 different primary text. For example, if I had one primary text, that would be here. I'd click add next text option 2, and we just keep going down the list. Once we create all 5 of these primary text, if I were to give it enough context, I can click generate variations. And what this is going to do, it's going to use AI to actually generate 4 additional variations on top of the 5 that I've already created. So what we'll do for this example, because I think this is so important, is I'm going to quickly show you how I can create really high value copy in ChatGPT. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to a brand called Talentless. This is a men and women's brand for really just like basic high quality clothing. We're going to pop in the URL for Talentless. I'm going to prompt ChatGPT to actually give me a bunch of different primary text options that actually feel persuasive, right? We want this to feel pretty powerful. I just use voice to text to give a really good description of this product, and I just wanted to spit back at me a bunch of different primary text. I asked for 3 specifically. My prompt is right here. You could screenshot it if you want to. Basically, when we have a deep prompt like this that has a lot of words, a lot of context, we get really good results. So for our primary text here, we're going to enter in the 3 headlines that GPT provided us. Make these in your own style. If you know headlines that work for you, if you want to be represented in a different way, include them here. In this case, we're going to use these just for this brand's example here. Now, to be honest, I think these are quite good. So if I actually look at these, meet the t-shirt you'll wear everywhere. Second headline here is you can feel the difference, crafted from 100% hand-dyed cotton. That's super, super good. And the final headline here is the last brand you'll try. I think these are really, really strong. Now, if you want to, you can click generate variations from AI. This is a Facebook built-in tool to actually generate more creative variations based on primary text for you. I would recommend you do this. It's just going to take a few minutes. Then we want to craft our headlines here. So to keep this simple, we're going to take this exact piece here and we're going to say, excellent. Now create unique headlines for these primary texts. These should be 30 to 60 characters. We want these to be nice and short so they can actually show up on primary text. These are for Facebook. Now, I think these are really good. The wear anywhere tee you'll live in. Boom. Rock on there. Shrink-proofed, soft as hell, built to last. The last t-shirt brand you'll ever need. Really solid. So these are mimicking what we have in our primary text. Now, a big heads up. If I was a brand, I was running like something like a big sale, or I was running a promotion or a bundle or something like that, I would definitely include that in the primary text. So instead of the last t-shirt brand you'll ever need, you could say the last t-shirt brand at 50% off. There's 100 ways you can position it, but we just need to make sure that we're including a promotion, we're including something that's valuable to the consumer. We never want to surprise value because we need to drive high click-through rates. And then finally, your description. Your description is a one-off thing. You actually don't need to include description at all. If your primary text has enough information in it, then skip the description. If your primary text is short, for example, if I just had this in my primary text right here, then I would include a description. However, in this case, our primary texts are loaded, so we're going to skip the description. Finally, our call to action, we are going to choose shop now. Once we're done there, we're going to click next, and we're into the enhancements. We got to be really careful here. In our enhancements, we don't want to select things that are going to interfere with our creative. So we're going to not select translate text. We're not selecting 3D animation. We are selecting show products. This is important. If we scroll down a bit more, we're not selecting overlays. We're not selecting visual touch-up, no image animation. We are selecting text improvements, and we are selecting enhanced CTA. We can go ahead and click done. We now have 3 primary texts. We have our primary headlines. We have no description, which is fine in this case. And we've basically created a V1 of our ad. This is really, really good. Once we scroll down a little bit more, we need to make sure our destination lines up. So make sure you're including your proper website URL. This is very, very important. And then if it's a long URL, just make sure the display link is a tight version of it. For example, if we were driving to that t-shirt, we want to make sure it's something as simple as, talentless.co/black t-shirt /premium shirt, something very simple. For our browser add-ons here, we are not including an edition. We do not want people DMing us. We do not want people calling us. We want people going to our site and buying. And then very important for our shop, make sure your shop is connected properly and you're sending people to the proper destination, matching the product in the image. And then finally, as we scroll down, our website events are turned on. We are probably not including app events or offline events unless you must. And then for our URL parameters, you should at this point have generic UTM tracking in place. If you don't, you should look up on how to do that. But for this purpose right here, we don't need any because we use automatic tracking on this account. By the way, if you are getting value out of this video already, do me a huge solid and go over to my Instagram and hit follow. I provide updates almost every single day there, and I'm finding Instagram to be the quickest way that I could possibly share results with everyone at scale. I also reply to quite a few DMs, so I'll see you over there, and let's get back into the video. We have gone through our complete ad setup, and now we're gonna go ahead and create the final few campaigns here. This is where the value is packed. So heading to the campaign section again, we are clicking create, we are clicking sales campaign, clicking continue, and we are going to create our retargeting campaign. We're just going to name this retargeting. Almost all of the settings are going to be the same as they were in the prospecting CBO campaign, except things get a little interesting when we start to target. In this case, we are using campaign budget. There is an opportunity to switch this to ad set budget down the line, but you need data first. For our daily budget here, this is going to be managed on a frequency. Now, what this means, this is a very important note. What you want to do is set this low to start, and you want to look at your frequency. This is a column in Facebook ads, and over a 14-day period, you never want your frequency to get over 10. You most of the time want this frequency to be between 5 and 7, so you want to make sure you're increasing your budget when it's lower than 5 to 7, and decrease your budget whenever it's higher than 7 to 10. So for now, I'm just going to keep this simple, set it to $25 a day. We are bidding highest volume or value, and everything else stays exactly the same. In our ad set for retargeting, we're going to call this one ATC or add to cart _90, representing 90 days. This is literally going to be anyone who's added a product to cart in the last 90 days. No ifs, ands, or buts. All of our conversion settings are going to be the same. Make sure you have your correct data set up, and our conversion event, you guessed it, is purchase. We're using standard attribution, and we're using 7-day click, 1-day view. Scrolling down to the audience, this is where things get very, very important. We are going to click further limit the reach of our ads, and we're going to click switch setup. Once we click this switch setup here, we're going to go to custom audiences. So in this case, we're going to click create new audience. We're going to click custom audience from website. Click next, and then we're going to make sure our pixel is set properly. We're going to change the event to add to cart. We're going to change the audience retention to 90 days. We're going to click include more people. We're going to use the same source. We're going to change this to initiate checkout, and we're going to change that to 90 days. Now, this is important. We use both add to cart and initiate checkout. Technically, they are the same thing. Technically, if you add to cart, that's the only way you can get to initiate checkout. This is just a fail safe for me. Right? If there's some weird tracking miss or hiccup, I like to have both here. There's no harm. We're going to put initiate checkout and add to cart. We're going to name this ATC plus IC, standing for initiate checkout, _90 days. Click create audience, and that's automatically going to add this audience to this campaign. Big important note. See this little box right here? It says use as a suggestion. If you click use as a suggestion here, it's going to actually still be a broad audience. And you can see that it says broad right here. However, if we unselect this suggestion, everything changes. Our campaign score drops, our audience definition goes to narrow, and this is exactly what we want. We want this to be a narrow audience. We want this to only be our add to cart and initiate checkout. And if that means it's only 1,000 people for you, if it's only 500 people, it's completely fine. We don't want this to be 20,000 people. We don't want this to be a million people. This has to be who actually added to cart or initiated checkout in the last 90 days strictly. And our placements for this are absolutely going to be all broad. We want all placements here unless there's a technical reason you can't be on a specific placement. And then finally, for ads in this section, I'm not going to go through the ad setup here, but what you want to make sure you're doing in this setup is you're including as many ads as possible. We want creative variety here. We want to make sure we're pushing the most critical, biggest ads that we have and our new tests that we're running as well. The reason we have all of our ads in here and not just 2 or 3 top performing ads is because think about if you saw 10 ads a week from a brand, you'd want them to be different. You want that to feel unique. So what we don't want to do at all is we really, really want to make sure we're not just hitting them with the same 2 or 3 ads all the time and just absolutely fatiguing the audience. That's why we have a variety of creative in the add to cart 90. The next audience we're setting up in retargeting is site visitors 30 days. So for this, really easy. We're going to click these 3 dots here. We're going to click duplicate. We're going to show existing reaction, comments, and shares. We're going to click duplicate. And then we have a mirror image of the add to cart 90. We're going to change this to site visitors 30. So it'll be 30-day site visitors. We're going to scroll all the way down to our audience again. And we're going to take this inclusion. We're going to exclude this audience, and we're going to get our site visitors 30 days in here. And again, make sure you're using as a suggestion is turned off. So now we've created a little bit of a hierarchy here. We have our add to cart 90, which does not have any exclusions in place. And then we have our site visitors 30, which has our add to cart / initiate checkout over the last 90 days excluded. Now you might be asking, wouldn't I exclude existing purchasers from this campaign? If you have a giant account, you're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars per month, yes, go ahead, exclude that and make sure you have strict swim lanes in place. However, for most accounts, if you're spending $30,000 to $50,000 or way under, if you're spending $100 a day or $50 a day, you don't want to have overly strict guidelines in your account. In this case, I am not going to exclude my existing customers from these campaigns. Next audience we're going to create, and this is a secret. This is where things differ from some of my previous tutorials. We're going to create a catalog retargeting audience over the last 14 days. This is one of the most high value campaigns that you can possibly create. This campaign here is going to be called catalog_retargeting. We're going to use Advantage Plus catalog ads here. So we're going to turn this on the campaign level and then make sure you actually select your proper catalog right here. Once you do that, you're using campaign budget because we're literally going to have one ad set, so it doesn't even matter. And you're setting your budget again, managed on a frequency. So start it low and work it up. And then everything else in the campaign settings stays the same. When you get to your ad set here, you're going to want to click website and shop, maximize number of conversions, purchase event as always, and then your promoted products here. This totally depends business to business. If you have 8,000 products, then yes, you need to drill down to your best sellers. If you have 20 products, then just include everything. Have a little bit of feel here. You're a business owner. You probably know what needs to go in here, but the core here is that most of your products should be shown. In this case, even though we have a giant catalog of 6,800 products, we are including all products because this campaign is going to show exactly the product that the customer already saw on your website again in their ads. And there's a secret setting that Facebook for some reason has completely hidden from us to actually enable us to do this. So moving into our audience, and this is where things get very good. We're going to click further limit the reach of our ads. We're going to click switch setup, and then we are going to change our custom audience. We're going to click create new, create custom audience, and we're going to click catalog. Once we're in the catalog, this is an old UI that shows up. This is so much harder to find for some reason. We're going to make sure our source is correct. We're going to choose our product set for all products. We're going to have the event be people who viewed products from your product set over the last 14 days. We're going to click include more people, and we're going to choose people who added products to cart. And then once we're here, this is going to be add to cart plus view _ 14 days. So what this does, this is a catalog custom audience for anyone who's viewed products or added products to cart in the last 14 days. And we're going to go ahead and click create audience. Now, once you're here, you're going to click add exclusions. This is critical. You have to add an exclusion for anyone who's purchased in the last 14 days as well. We're going to do purchase 14 days, and then we're going to unselect the use as a suggestion tick box, which brings our campaign from broad right back down to narrow, which is what we want. In the ads here, this is where things are going to vary a little bit. We're going to be using carousels for this ad type and we are going to select multi-advertiser ads. In our ad creative, we're going through the same process, but we're going to be selecting multiple products. And then for our creative options, we want to have two different variations. You're going to create one ad for single image, you're going to duplicate that ad, and you're going to create another one for slideshow. Make sure you have 5 primary text and as many headlines as you're allowed, and then use your call to action as shop now. When you do this, really look through the ads. Make sure they feel good to you. And then finally, your Advantage Plus Creative. We're going to click edit here. This is very, very important. We're going to use the Advantage Creative for catalog. We want this on. We're going to include expand image because that's going to allow a very basic product image to actually get a little bit bigger on screen if necessary. We're not going to adapt to placement. We're going to use dynamic description. We are not going to generate backgrounds. We are going to enhance CTA, and then down here, click show more enhancements. We're going to click hide price. This is only going to be predictive based on when it thinks it's going to work better. And then we are going to include add standard labels. As you can tell with these, I'm a little bit more okay with having these AI enhancements on. In many cases, I'm generally not. And then finally, for our destination, make sure your shop is correct. Make sure your default destination is website, and include your homepage here. What's going to happen is if anyone actually clicks on a product that's shown in the catalog, they will go to the product page. But if they click somewhere else, like the last card that defaults them to the homepage, this URL will be used. That's really it. Final campaign. This is only going to apply if you have 1,000 plus existing customers. We are going to create a new sales campaign, click continue, and we're going to call this retention. Retention basically means you're retaining your existing customers. For retention, same as our retargeting. We are starting this at campaign budget. We may move this to ad set budget depending on performance. Your daily budget is going to be set very low and you're going to work it up based on the same frequency metrics that we already broke down before. Your campaign bid strategy is highest volume or value, very straight up, and then nothing else gets touched here. In your ad set, your first ad set that you're creating is purchasers 180 days. So purchasers 180. Website and shop, maximize number of conversions, select your proper data set. Conversion event, of course, is always purchase. Your budget and strategy is not being touched, and your audience is where things get good. Click further limit the reach of your ads, switch setup. When you're here, you're clicking your custom audience again. You're creating a new custom audience based on website. Click next, and you're making sure your source is correct. Your event is the purchase event. Your audience retention is 180. This is going to be anyone who's purchased from us over the last 180 days. And we're just going to call this purchase _ 180. Really simple. Create that audience. And then again, of course, make sure you're unselecting the use as a suggestion because this should not be broad. This should be very, very narrow. Once this is done, there's no other changes here. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to click duplicate because we're going to create our final ad set. This final ad set is going to be purchasers all time. Really simple. Anyone who's ever purchased from you is going to be in this ad set. All settings stay exactly the same because we copied it from the purchasers 180 days. And we're going to be selecting the purchase 180 days and we're going to move this to an exclusion. And then we're going to create a new audience, custom audience, from our customer list. Click next. And then there's 2 ways you could do this. You could either upload a hard list, or if you have a proper integration with your CRM like Klaviyo, MailChimp, etc., you could actually import this and it will show up automatically in your audiences right here. So you can see if I type in Klaviyo, because this brand uses Klaviyo, it's going to show up a bunch of audiences that I've created. So this is going to be Klaviyo for ads, anyone who's purchased in the last 365 days. You could expand this to all time. I just created 365 for this brand in particular, and we're going to be excluding the purchase 180. So these are separate, different audiences. Our audience definition is going to be, of course, narrow. We want to make sure that's there. If it's not narrow, you did something wrong, go back. Now, these 2 ad sets are going to be very high value because they're hitting your existing customers. So we need to manage them very, very closely. We don't want to overwhelm our existing customers. We don't want to show them offers that don't apply to them. We don't want to tell subscribers to subscribe again when they're already subscribed. We want to make sure the ad creative in each of these audiences here are very curated to existing customers to help them feel encouraged to come back again and again. Now, don't think that you can get away with not targeting your existing customers. Existing customers will eventually become completely churned customers and go to a different brand unless you're selling something so unique that they cannot find it elsewhere. And I know for 99.999% of e-commerce, that is not the case. Our fifth and final campaign is our scale campaign. Our scale campaign is where we're going to take our best ads and we're going to graduate them into the scaling mechanism. I have talked about this 50 plus times on this channel, but something has changed in the last few weeks that has changed this campaign. We're going to choose a sales campaign. We're going to click continue. This campaign name is going to be scale. We're going to set this at an ad set budget. If you've been watching my videos for a while, your mind just exploded, but stick with me. You're going to select this as an ad set budget, and we're going to go down and make sure all of our settings are exactly the same as they've been the entire time. We're going to move to ad set here. Our ad set here, the first most important ad set that we're going to set up here is our scale. This scale is the most generic setup of scale, and it's the most important. All of our settings, just like we've been setting up this whole time, are going to be exactly the same, and our budget's going to start somewhere around 10% of the total account. This is going to work up very quickly. So in this case, I'm just going to set $100. For our audience here, we're going to click further limit the reach of our ads, switch setup, and all we're going to do is exclude our other swim lanes that we already set up, our retargeting and our retention. So what that means for us is the add to cart plus initiate checkout 90 days, and then our purchasers over the last 180 days. I don't care as much about the purchasers all time here, although you can exclude them. Just make sure you're setting these as exclusions and not making the mistake that I almost made here and set these up as inclusions. So we're going to actually X those out here and make sure they're set up as exclusions. The good thing here is because we're just putting exclusions in here and we're not targeting anything, this is still technically Advantage Plus. Now, the reason we want this Advantage Plus on to be set up is because this uses a very, very close but different algorithm than a broad with manual setup uses. So if we see Advantage Plus off, it's using a little bit of a different algo to actually target people and different ads. We want to make sure this is on. And the ads within this ad set are not created. They're not new ads ever. So now that we've set up the scale campaign, we need to talk about the graduation system. The graduation system takes your top performing ads from your prospecting CBO and it scales them into the scaling campaign and somewhere else that I'm going to show you as well, which is your interest audiences that you're going to create. The importance of this is monumental. If you do not have a graduation program in your account, then it is impossible for you to determine exactly how much you want to spend against certain creatives. And ultimately, it puts you in this cycle where only the top ads in your account spend, they hog all of the ad spend, and no new ad ever has a chance of actually increasing spend. It also doesn't allow you to hard scale anything, because if you had a winning ad in a specific campaign that you want to get a boatload of spend against, and you increase the spend in that CBO campaign, you cannot guarantee that the spend actually goes to that top performing ad. It might get trickled down into a variety of other ads. This is how the scaling mechanism works. In our prospecting CBO campaign, inside of our first pack, we're going to have a bunch of ads here. These ads, if it is above your goal and a high spender, meaning it's in the top 2 to 3 ads in the campaign, it's going to be duplicated into the scale campaign. And the way that we do that is we click the hard duplicate button here. We do not copy and paste. And we change our existing campaign to the scale campaign. We move our existing ad set to the scale ad set, and we make sure this is checked on. We click the duplicate button and it's automatically going to duplicate this ad into the scale. What you do not do is you do not pause this down. You keep this ad active. And the second thing we do into this campaign is we are going to actually go back to our prospecting CBO and we're going to create a new ad set. This ad set here is going to be an interest-based audience. The reason we use interest and broad together is because interests tend to have higher efficiencies, but a little bit worse in terms of total scale. Interests also allow the broad audience to expand. They find new pockets of audiences that might or might not work for your brand. So what we do here is we're going to call this interest underscore and then whatever the interest name is. Let's just say in this case, we were targeting Reebok and we call this number 1. We're going to choose all the same settings as we have been the entire time. And we're going to go down to further limit the reach of our ads. We're going to switch the setup. We are going to click detailed targeting here. And we're going to type in the audience for Reebok, which is what I just mentioned. We're going to click Reebok Sporting Goods, which is the interest. We're then going to go back up to custom audiences. And just like we did in our pack number 1, we want to add those proper exclusions in place for our add to cart 90 days and then our purchasers 180 days so that we know we're actually prospecting on new audiences. Now you could see here our detailed targeting says your suggestion. It also is keeping Advantage Plus on, and it's technically still a broad campaign, but our campaign score dropped to 70. We do not care that our campaign score dropped to 70. In fact, we're just going to let this be just as is. Now what we're doing is we're taking, just like we did, that top ad from pack number 1 that was above our goal and high spending, and we're also graduating that ad into our interest Reebok. The key of an interest group here is that we're not having 20 different interest groups because then it would be 100% broad. We're finding adjacent interest groups. So if I'm Nike, I'm not necessarily putting Under Armour in here. But if I'm Nike, I might go for a more premium ad or a more premium interest group that will actually enhance my targeting that Facebook itself might not have found for me on its own. We want to make sure we're graduating top performing ads into the interest and into the scaling mechanism. And finally, I promised you something very different. Now, this goes against a lot of videos I've put out there, but I just want you to know that A, if you're this far into the video, and B, if you watch these videos often, you will see them change. I am not married to the way that I put something out here. I want to make sure that whatever content I am delivering behind this camera is the most valuable, most relevant content for today. Not 6 months ago, so I could say the same thing over and over again. Everything changes in Facebook ads. This is one of those changes that I've seen work tremendously well. If you are spending high amounts, you're actually getting to the next level of spend, right? You're spending $1,000 a day, $2,000 a day, etc. You're not spending $100 a day to do this. You're truly spending higher amounts. In addition to this scale, and the reason we've set this up as an ad set budget optimization now, in addition to this scale, we are creating a new ad set, and we are going to be using cost caps here. For this, we're setting up everything almost the same, except this cost per result goal is going to be set in a way that is different. The way that we're doing this right now that is working very, very well is we're taking the best performing ads and grouping together by product. So when we have a top performing ad, let's say it was this talentless ad here, we're pushing it into a new ad set based on all the similar products of this ad that share a same average order value. This is complex. If you have to rewind and listen to that again, please do. All of the products in this ad set have a similar average order value, and you could see that based on the ad performance. This is key. Now, the way we're naming this ad is going to be very important. So we're going to have premium T here because we're using the example. We're going to put AOV. I'm going to put a colon here, and I'm going to put my average order value. I'm going to pretend it's $100 to keep this really simple. If my average order value is $100 and I have a 2 target return on ad spend, that means 100 divided by 2, I need to get $50 purchases. If I get $50 purchases and my average order value holds at 100, then I will drive a 2x return on ad spend. You could do that in any variation of your average order value and any variation of your return on ad spend target. Here in our cost per result goal, I'm setting 50. This means that on average, it's going to try to keep my cost per purchase at $50. Then for our budget, we are going to set this high. This is going to be a little uncomfortably high. Now keep in mind, this is for the big spenders right now. Daily budget, right off the gate, $500. This might represent 25% of my total account spend. But I have a proven ad in here that is proven to work. We're not just throwing ads in here. Proven ad with a high budget here should cap. This is a very important fundamental part to understand. We're not expecting it to spend the full $500 every day. It might. So don't think that this is a prescription that it's only going to spend a portion of this. It might spend the full 500. It might go over the 500. If it spends 500 and it can't hit the 50 over the course of a few days, it's going to spend lower and lower. It's only going to spend if it thinks it could hit the $50 cost per result goal. Don't fool yourself and think that if you set this to $5, it's always going to hit your goal. You have to be very realistic with this. And in most cases, I actually set it to my exact target, maybe $1 or $2 less. So we're setting this to 50. We're keeping our budget very high. And just like our other scale campaign, our audience is going to be set up exactly the same. So just like our other scale campaign, we're using a broad audience. We're excluding our purchasers 180 days and our add to cart 90 days. And that's it. This setup right here has been tremendously valuable for us. And it actually allows us to have multiple ad sets in a cost cap environment for our scale campaign. Very unique setup. Very complex. So if you have any questions about this setup, let me know in the comments below. This video, I brought it all for you. So if you got value out of this video and you want to see more updates just like this, in the description, I included a link to my Instagram. I go live there pretty frequently and I answer all of my DMs. So hit me up there, hit me a follow there, and I will see you all in the next one.